We had a really interesting turn-up, not only in terms of speakers, but also in terms of attendees. I think all the discussions were extremely interesting, enriching, and there were lots of points of views. I think you've had points of views from entrepreneurs, points of views from big corporate members, points of view from ambassadors, and even from a former president, so that was excellent.
Forums like this one are very important in order to have a broad understanding of the issues, the current issues in Latin America. Also to bring people together from not only around the region, but also from the European perspective to discuss the region.
I think that the idea of the London Business School and Canning House of organizing this conference, which has had a success in assistance and the interest of young and not so young people that have come to the conference, is that there's increased curiosity about our continent, about Latin America. And I do think that curiosity is the beginning of interest and of knowledge and getting more to know, to connect, to do business, to read our literature and find about our continent. So I find it very important in this globalized world to put ourselves, we Latin Americans, into the picture.
I think it was a very diverse panelists, a group of panelists at the table that I was in, which also made it quite interesting with very different perspective, with a lot of interesting issues.
This is really a forum where you can create a lot of networking, but also get a lot of knowledge.
You could see amazing people talking interesting topics, a lot of people participating are engaging with the community, a lot of networking as well. So for me, it was a brilliant experience.
Growth has to be not just about elites. It doesn't just be about income for the government. It has to be an equitable spread of that. And I think one of the interesting areas of exploration for the panel session that I'm moderating about the Mercosur grouping versus the Pacific Alliance is really about that. It comes down to this idea of where you want an economy to go. Do you want it to be centralized, statist, or more open, export-driven? And I think that's a really exciting opportunity, but of course it also presents huge challenges as well, and that's what we've explored.
I am one of the fathers of Mercosur, but I won't recognize it now as father or child because it's changed so much. It began as an economic and commercial organization trying to build a huge market of Brazil, Argentina, and the two small countries, Paraguay and Uruguay. This has been completely diverted into a political leftist club of the four countries I mentioned and Venezuela, of having a parliament who never was intended to have one, and in the hardcore of the intent, which is free trade, better trade, we have the worst scenario possible now. So I don't think this Mercosur can last long. It must change into a free trade association, for instance, because that's the name of the game. That's why Alianza del Pacífico, that began 3 years ago, is having the upper hand because they're doing simple things that are those that really function.
Latin American companies and people have an advantage, I think, in the sense of they understand how to do business in an economy where it's not that, let's say, orthodox. Yeah, so you need more flexibility to work with partners and understand their points of view as well.
This was actually a very steep learning curve from the very beginning. It was working with a very diverse team of people, all the students from LBS, all very smart, very knowledgeable, and have to coordinate everyone was quite a task. It was very good.
Our topic, competitiveness, is absolutely fundamental. I mean, the world is a very competitive place. Countries, regions are competing with each other. So seeing what the barriers to improving competitiveness is very important. And I think we had some useful discussions looking at that.
In general, the quality of the management, the quality of productivity, all these things are improving. Perhaps the only weaker area is the sort of institutions, the institutional sides. And that, I think, is, as came out in the discussions today, is an area that needs looking at and needs adjusting and adapting if the Latin American corporations are going to become more competitive, become more able to export internationally and so on.
The best way to contribute to growth in Latin America, productivity and competitiveness, all the things that we discussed, is through the qualification of human capital. That's exactly what we're doing here. So Latin America needs high qualified professionals, human resources, who eventually will work in the companies, reshape institutions, improve economic policy.
Growth is a long-term cycle of growth in Latin America. Sometimes could be slowly, but always grow. Then few parts in the world you have this opportunity to have new population comes, young people, high spenders. I think that's the main reason to look at Latin America very closely.
You know, we've seen through Comparabim, we've seen an increased presence of organizations, both state-run and also privately run, that are helping fund that gap between not being able to do anything and being a fully funded startup. So, and you know, and that's sometimes that's all we need to bootstrap a concept and then get enough validation to then raise capital and then take it from there.
The challenge for the next editions of the Latin American Forum will be not only to have the same good speakers as we did today, an amazing lineup of speakers, but what we need to do is also try to change the subject. So it shouldn't be only related to corporate teams, but also try to include the teams that are important for us as a region, education and social responsibility.